Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Dan, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Because there's not many films out in cinemas at the moment and all that kind of stuff, and the coronavirus stuff, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about my 5 favourite filmmakers working today. Before I even get into it, I should say this is not a list of the best filmmakers working today. You know, you're not going to see, Paul Thomas Anderson on this list. This is just my personal subjective favourites. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going to give me shit for people like Denis Villeneuve who aren't going to be on this list. I know I've probably lost about 90% of the audience already by saying that. But this is just a list of my favourite filmmakers. It's just the ones that hit me where I live. These are just the ones that I find myself looking forward to the most when they bring out a new movie. The ones that consistently have movies that are in my kind of top 10, 20, 30 films of all time. So yeah, that's something to know. Alright, so here are some honourable mentions in no particular order. Martin McDonagh. I think In Bruges and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri in particular are fantastic films. I can't wait to see his new film, The Banshee of Vishnia or something like that. I think his movies are really funny, but I think they're very kind of melancholic at the same time. I think he's a good director. I think he's a phenomenal writer. Unlucky for us, he only brings a film out about every 4 or 5 years. But yeah, we talk about the best screenwriters in the world. People talk about Aaron Sorkin, and they talk about Quentin Tarantino and Noah Baumbach, and rightly so. But honestly, I think Martin McDonagh is not far off that. I think he's very good at what he does. I think his characterization, his setups, his reveals, his dialogue, his humor, just the way that he approaches theme and all that kind of stuff, I think he's brilliant. Sam Raimi's another one. You know me, guys. I love me some Spider-Man. I love me the original trilogy, even Spider-Man 3, which most people don't like. I like that. Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2 in particular, 2 of my favorite movies of all time. I love the Evil Dead movies. Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 I really like, but Army of Darkness I fucking love. Drag Me to Hell's really good. I'm excited to see what he's going to do with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness or whatever it's called. There's still some films from Sam Raimi that I haven't actually seen, like Darkman, and I think there's a couple of others. But from what I've seen of Sam Raimi, I fucking love the guy. Another one's going to be Richard Linklater. He's probably made 3 of my favourite movies of all time, maybe even 4. I grew up watching School of Rock, love that movie. Absolutely adore Boyhood, and absolutely adore Dazed and Confused. I really like Everybody Wants Some, and he's got a really underrated film that you should definitely check out called A Scanner Darkly. It's an animated film, but it's like R-rated, and it's based on a book, I believe, and it's got Robert Downey Jr., Woody Harrelson, and Keanu Reeves in it, and it's just a really underrated movie. Check that out for sure. And then you've got things like the Before trilogy, you've got Slacker, Waking Life, Suburbia. I really dig Richard Linklater. The only reason he's not really on my top 5 list is just because he's got a lot of movies, and even though I love a lot of his movies, there's about half his movies that I just don't really care for that much. So he's kind of hit and miss for me as Richard Linklater, but when he hits, he really hits. My last honourable mention is going to go to my favourite person in the whole world, my hero in life, Kevin Smith. As much as I love Kevin Smith, and as much as I love his early stuff, you look at Clerks, Clerks 2, Dogma, Chasing Amy, Mallrats, Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which is a film that people seem to forget that he made for some reason, but that. I even quite like Jersey Girl, and then Red State, and fucking Tusk. Most people don't like those 2 movies, but I think they're really good. And of course, you got James and Silent Bob Strike Back. I haven't actually seen Reboot yet. I need to watch that. But Kevin Smith, he is my favourite person in the world, but he hasn't really directed a good movie in a long time now. So I can't really put him on this list and say he's one of my favourite working filmmakers, because the last film he made that I loved was probably Zack and Miri Make a Porno, which I think came out like 2008 or something around there. And, all of his kind of best movies came out in the 90s or the early 2000s. But I've got to give him an honourable mention because it's Kevin fucking Smith. All right, so let's get into it. So coming in at number 5, it's Taika Waititi. So Taika Waititi for me he's a filmmaker that he just seems to go from strength to strength. If you look at his filmography, Eagle vs. Shark, that's his first movie. It kind of feels amateurish when you watch it in a way, but in the sense that when you look at his more recent films, he's clearly got better at his craft. But what I love about Taika Waititi is there was always, even in his early, more amateur films, there was always a real heart to them. He made a short film called 2 Cars, 1 Night. I don't even know how to describe it. He can just write and direct in such a way where you just really feel for the characters, even if you haven't known them for long. They're very endearing, and his films are just quirky. They're funny. He's one of the best comedy directors / writers working today, but he doesn't rely on the comedy. The comedy always, kind of comes secondary to, the story and the characters at hand. So I thought Eagle vs. Shark was all right. I really like Boy. What We Do in the Shadows, I need to rewatch that because that seems to be like most people's favorite Taika Waititi. If it's not Thor Ragnarok, it tends to be What We Do in the Shadows. I need to watch that again because I watched it once, and that was actually the first Taika Waititi film I watched. So I quite liked it because I'm a big fan of Flight of the Conchords. So obviously Jermaine Clement's in it and stuff, and Rhys Darby. But I didn't love it, and I think maybe if I rewatched it, I'd get a lot more out of it. So I do need to rewatch that one. But I like What We Do in the Shadows. I like Hunt for the Wilderpeople, but I love Thor Ragnarok and I love Jojo Rabbit. I think Thor Ragnarok is the kind of movie where you can just stick it on at any time. It's one of the most, in terms of just pure entertainment, it's one of the best out there. The action, the soundtrack, the humor, it's just a big cartoon, and it's just absurdly entertaining all the way through. And then Jojo Rabbit was a lot more heartfelt than I thought it was going to be. It was funny, it was nicely shot, it had a good soundtrack. Something else that I need to give Taika Waititi credit for as well is he casts unknown actors a lot of the time and discovers these up-and-coming actors who are so good. Like Roman Griffin Davis, Taika Waititi said, I think he said a couple of thousand kids they auditioned for that. And they found Roman Griffin Davis, and he's brilliant in the film. James Ralston in Boy, he hasn't gone on to do very much since then, but he was really good in Boy. He gets good performances out of people, especially out of kids. And his films just have this quirkiness and this charm to them. And yeah, he's just going from strength to strength. So I can't wait to watch Next Goal Wins, and I can't wait to watch Thor Love and Thunder. And that's the thing as well, is he never stops working. He seems to bring out a movie like every year or every 2 years at the most. So yeah, he brought a film out in 2017, 2019. He's got one coming out this year. He's got one coming out next year. And I'm excited for them because I love Taika Waititi. And the guy himself just seems like a cool guy. Like I've seen him in interviews. He seems cool. He seems nice. He seems funny. Just gotta love the guy. Coming in at number 4, it's Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Now this might be a strange one. I don't think these guys would make most people's lists. And you might be sat there saying, really, they're making your list? But listen, I'm a fan of comedy. Comedy is my favourite genre. And there's not many people who make good comedy today, but they are up there with the best. And everything they've done, I've liked. They did a TV show called Clone High, which is really underrated. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, it's alright. I don't love it. 21 and 22 Jump Street, I do love those though. Absolutely love 21 and 22 Jump Street. And the Lego Movie was really good. And then they're the kind of stuff that they've written and then they've directed those films. But then even things they haven't directed that they've worked on, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I believe they wrote and produced that. And then things like the Lego Batman movie and the Lego Movie 2, they had a big hand in writing those and producing those films, even if they didn't direct them. And I just think you look at all those films and they're all really good. Like, the Lego Batman movie is a good example, because that's the kind of film where if you haven't seen it and you're watching this video now, you're going, really, the Lego Batman? Like, that just sounds dumb. And I agree, it does sound dumb. But the thing is, that's kind of the point of the film, is it realizes it's a kind of dumb idea, and it kind of makes Batman this, like, it's very self-referential and very meta. Not in a Deadpool, not like a breaking the fourth wall way, but in kind of a, like, in a kind of threatening to break the fourth wall way. You know, they kind of flirt with breaking the fourth wall, but they don't overtly do it. And that's a skill in itself, and they're some of the only people who can do it. And they kind of remind me of like like movies from the 80s and stuff, like Leslie Nielsen movies like Airplane and Hot Shots and all those kind of like spoof movies, and Naked Gun and stuff like that. And they're some of the only people who can do that. But not only do they write funny stuff, again, the humor is not what they rely on. You look at something like Into the Spider-Verse, funny movie, but at its core, it's got heart. Same with the Lego Movie. Same with the Jump Street films, which I cannot stress enough how much I love those films. I think they're very well written. So again, just the comedy is hilarious, but it's also kind of clever, and it's self-referential, but never too self-referential. And it doesn't rely on that. It just sprinkles it on top. And the chemistry between Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, and I've seen those movies so many times. The only thing with Lord and Miller is they haven't directed a film since 2014 now, because obviously they were doing Solo and then they got taken off it. So I really can't wait to see what they direct next. But everything they work on at the minute is always good. They're really consistent. They're some of the only people who can do what they do as well as they do it. So I love Lord and Miller. Coming in at number 3 is Damien Chazelle. Now Damien Chazelle, now we're getting to the point where the people on my list are making some of my favourite movies of all time. So he exploded onto the scene with Whiplash, which, in terms of my favourite films, it's probably in like my top 20, top 25, something like that. Really, really dig Whiplash. But it's one of two films that are just absurdly personal to me. Whiplash and Clerks. Now, Clerks, I'm not going to go into it too much here, but I already mentioned Kevin Smith earlier. Clerks is the film that made me want, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like in my spare time, I make short films, and that's my goal in life, is to write and direct for film and television. And it's because of watching Clerks that I decided to do that, because that was when I realized, like, oh, anyone can make a film. Well, not just anyone can make a film, but anyone can make a good film. Like, he used non-actors, he had, he didn't have a high budget, he didn't have proper cameras, he couldn't even light scenes or make them look good or anything. That's why the film's in black and white. But he just wrote a script that was witty, that was funny, it had things to say, it had like movie humor in it, it had like movie references in it, it had stoner humor in it. And that was the film where I just watched it and I just went, I had a eureka moment when I was like, holy shit, that's what I want to do. And that's the kind of film that I want to make. If you guys don't know, like, the kind of thing that I make is like it's like early Kevin Smith, early Richard Linklater films like Suburbia and Clerks, kind of coming of age movies that are kind of comedies, but they have a bit of drama in them as well, and there's usually like movie references and stoner humor. Like, that's my thing, and Clerks is the film that made me do that. So Clerks and Whiplash are the two most personal films to me. The reason Whiplash is super personal to me is because I love, I love films and I want to make films, and a lot of films they try and have like the most relatable character ever, and so by doing that they kind of make them very vague and broad. It's kind of like that. There's a Bo Burnham song called Repeat Stuff where he kind of says the same thing about pop songs. And it's like that with films. They kind of go, well, if we make him really vague, then it's relatable to everyone, which to me means that it's not relatable at all. So I find relatable characters to be really specific characters, and Andrew Neiman in Whiplash is, for me, one of the two most relatable characters I can think of, and both the character, one of them's real, it's Mark Zuckerberg from The Social Network, which I know both those characters are dickheads, and that must mean I'm a dickhead, but just I love characters that are like super driven to be the best at what they do, and they just want to be great. They just want to be amazing at their craft, and they'll stop at nothing to achieve it. And even Alex Honnold, like I watched that, the documentary Free Solo, I watched that again the other day. Those three people are the three most relatable people to me, so take from that what you will. But Whiplash is just absurdly relatable to me, and I love it. But even more than Whiplash is La La Land. Because if Whiplash is in my top 20, 25 movies of all time, La La Land's in my top 10. I fucking love La La Land. You look at the colour grading, you look at the cinematography, the script, the characters, you look at the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone, the musical set pieces, the ending, the themes, the things it has to say. I love it. It's one of those films where you can just tell that the director making it fucking loves what he's doing, has so much passion in it. Every frame is just dripping with detail and with just like style and energy and colour and passion, and I just love it. And I just think it's one of those films where you watch it and it just fills you with like magic and wonderment, and it sweeps you away, and then you come away and you go, that's me, I want to go and achieve my dreams. So I love La La Land, top 10 of all time for me. And then even First Man, which it kind of flies under the radar because people are comparing it to Whiplash and La La Land, which are two of the most critically acclaimed movies of the 2010s, if not the 21st century. But even First Man, I think, is a phenomenal film. I saw that film in IMAX, and it was one of the best cinematic experiences of my life. The third act, at least, the moon landing sequence, amazing. The cinematography, the score, just the direction, just amazing stuff. The special effects, fuck me. Yeah, and even First Man was in my top 10 favourite films of 2018. So I love Damien Chazelle. I can't wait to see Babylon. Right now, I don't know if it's going to change, but I think right now Emma Stone and Brad Pitt are in talks to play the two leads. It's set in Hollywood. I love me a movie about Hollywood. A lot of my favourite films take place in Hollywood. Things like Singing in the Rain, The Nice Guys. I really like The Disaster Artist, La La Land, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Hail Caesar, the Coen Brothers movie. Like, I just love films that take place in Hollywood, and even like older movies like Cinema Paradiso and 8.5. Like, I just love me some movies that take place in Hollywood. The Player, the Robert Altman movie, that's really good. So yeah, cannot wait to watch Babylon. All right, now we're up to the top 2, and this is where it starts to get like a level above. I love Taika Waititi. Jojo Rabbit and Thor Ragnarok, they're up there among my favorite. They're not in like my top 10 favorite films, but I love them both, and they're kind of up there somewhere. My favorite films: Lord and Miller, love 21-22 Jump Street. They're up there somewhere. Damien Chazelle, Whiplash, top 20, 25. La La Land, top 10. But now the next two, like pretty much everything they do, I love. They've probably got multiple films in my top 10, top 20. And at number 2, it's Quentin Tarantino. Now, if you've seen the Tarantino ranked video that me and Matt did, you'll know that Django... I've never really had a favourite film, and I don't have a favourite film right now, but there was a time where if I had to pick, Django Unchained would have been my favourite film. And the only reason it's not is because I actually watched it too much and ruined it for myself, which is a really annoying habit that I have. When I love a song or a film, I just watch it or listen to it to the point where I hate it. Not that I hate Django Unchained. I think I let like 2 years pass and then watched it again and was like, fell back in love with it. So I love Django Unchained. But yeah, at one point that was probably my favourite film if I had to pick one. And Tarantino, obviously his dialogue, his non-linear narratives, he just breaks rules, he creates new rules. Every film he does, it inspires a new trend in movies. And I think the way that he casts people is so good, so unorthodox. He's so good at he's one of the best directors at pulling performances out of actors, because he used to be an actor, so he speaks their language. Only a couple of directors, like maybe Paul Thomas Anderson, I would say, are better at pulling performances out of their actors. He's great at doing that. His soundtracks are great. I used to work at Everyman, and on a they play music, and on a Sunday they'd have like a Tarantino day where they just play songs from Tarantino's movies, and he has that many songs and that many good songs and such a variety of songs that you can listen to that all day, and you would never get bored of it. Like every Sunday they used to put on like just movies from Tarantino films, and when the songs are playing you can picture the scenes in your head. And the thing that Tarantino does with music is he doesn't just pick a song to fit the scene, he picks a song to elevate the scene. And that's what I love about Tarantino. And the way that he approaches violence, the way that he's so unapologetic, he's got such a style about him, such a unique, like when you're watching a Tarantino movie. And, even though he's number 2 on the list, I actually look forward to Tarantino movies more than number 1 on the list. He only brings a movie out like every 3 or 4 years. He's only got one more in him, which breaks my fucking heart. And I just hope it's amazing. Because, listen, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, one of the best films of 2019. The Hateful Eight, one of the best films of 2015. But not since Django Unchained has he really blown me, and I think most people, away. I think most people would say his last 2 films have been very good, but for his standard, they're maybe middle of the pack, maybe even toward the bottom. So I really hope that his 10th and final film just knocks it out of the park, blows everyone out of the water, and then he just drops the fucking mic. So yeah, a video that I want to do one day is like my top 20 favourite films or something like that. I'm working on it at the moment, but it's very hard. I've got to compile them all, and then I've got to kind of rewatch them and make sure and then rank them and stuff, so it's pretty difficult. But Django Unchained is definitely going to be on there. There's a couple of other Tarantino films that might make it on there. I really like me some Kill Bill. I really like me some Inglourious Basterds. I really like me some Pulp Fiction. So Tarantino is the man, and he's my number 2 favourite director working today. But coming in at number 1 is Edgar Wright. Now, the thing with Edgar Wright, yes, I love his movies, but he actually had a TV show called Spaced. It was a sitcom about a bunch of stoners who lived in this flat, and they kind of like viewed life through the prism of movies. Like, how Abed in Community, like he sees everything as, he just sees it as like film and TV, and that's how he processes the world. It was basically like that, but every character, they wouldn't like spout movie references, but kind of the whole show was like looked at through that lens. So it's very hard to describe, but basically like characters would do things, and then they'd just very cleverly set up situations so that they'd end up in the exact same situation or the exact same shot or the exact same pose or the exact same outfit as characters or scenes or moments in movies. But I've never seen anyone else do it in that way. I can't describe it. It's not a movie reference in the sense of like, in Avengers Endgame when they say, time travel, like Back to the Future. Not that kind of movie reference. I'm talking like recreating movie moments, but setting them up so fucking well. You do not see it coming. Even the actual movie references themselves are subtle. It's not like, oh, stop and look at this reference. Like there are so many references that I know I'm missing, because how can I can't be getting them all. You know, I'm not as much of a fucking cinephile as Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, who wrote it. So, yeah, I just think if you guys like the Cornetto trilogy and Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, you know, The World's End, if you like those films of his in particular and you haven't seen Spaced, please seek out Spaced. Spaced is fucking amazing. Die-hard fan of Spaced, one of my favourite TV shows of all time, one of the best sitcoms of all time in my opinion, and probably in everyone's opinion. I don't know anyone who's watched it and not loved it. The first few episodes can be a little bit slow and hard to get into, but by episode 4 of season 1, you're going. You're good, you're golden Richards. But even beyond that, you look at his films, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Again, I don't have an official top 10 list. I don't really know what my top 10 list is exactly, but probably Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz would both be on my top 10, and if not, they'd definitely both be on my top 20. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World is just one of the most outside the box, like zany, stylistic, visually appealing, one of its kind movies to exist. You know, he's so stylish, man. His quick cuts, his whip pans, his fucking the way that he sets things up and then pays them off later or repeats them, but now they have new added context and stuff. You know, The World's End is a weird one because that's a film that I like a lot. I've seen it 6 or 7 times. I really like it, but it's hard not to compare it to Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and it's not on that same level for me. So, in a weird way, it feels like I don't like the movie as much as maybe other people do, but I still love it, and I've seen it 6 or 7 times. And again, still one of the better comedies that came out in the 2010s. But Baby Driver, that came out in June 2017. It's now March 2020, so nearly 3 years later. I have not seen a film since Baby Driver that I have liked as much. I think I saw it 4 times in the cinemas. I absolutely loved it. It was my favourite film of that year, and as I say, nothing in 2018 even came close. Nothing in 2019 came close. I'm really looking forward to Last Night in Soho. It's probably going to get pushed back now, but yeah, I love Edgar Wright, and I love everything he does. Something that I really like about Edgar Wright as well is he uses comedy visually, because he recognises that film is a visual medium, and he doesn't just rely on like banter between characters or, you know, like verbal, like oral jokes. He does like visual comedy, which not a lot of people do, and not a lot of people are good at doing, but he does it really well. The one thing I would say about Edgar Wright, the one criticism I would have is I always think his characters are a little bit more relatable and a little bit more kind of complete, and his films just feel a bit more kind of holistic when he's co-written them with Simon Pegg. I think you look at Baby Driver, and I think the characters come off as a little bit cold, a little bit distant compared to, like, my biggest gripe, and really my only gripe with that film, is the relationship between Baby and Deborah. I just never really I was never like really rooting for them. I never really bought it. Whereas you look at like Shaun and Liz in Shaun of the Dead, and I just buy that relationship. I never really fully bought this relationship, and I know that the film kind of has like almost an over-the-top, almost like fantasy kind of thing to it. So, you know, but I don't know. Yeah, anyway, I'm looking forward to what he does next. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm just going to say real quick as well, I think we're moving back to our old flat at the end of the month. We got moved out because it flooded, but we're moving back. So we're going to have a nice background. Finally, we're going to have the posters back up, because I know that you guys have to look at a horrible background at the minute, just my fucking shitty kitchen. I'm really sorry that you have to see that, but like I say, soon it's going to be better. So thanks for watching this. That's my top 5. So from 5 to 1, Taika Waititi, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, Damien Chazelle, Quentin Tarantino, and Edgar Wright. Thanks a lot for watching this, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please drop a like on the video. I hate saying it, but it does help me out. Don't forget to hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.